Here's a question for you. Are you a bullshitter? Watching the media, it would be very easy to think that to be a successful business leader, you have to be a professional bullshitter. I wonder, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you score on my red-hot, accurate bullshit meter? One of the most valuable pieces of equipment that you will ever have in life and in business is an efficient bullshit meter. However, it's vital that you have the premier version. Most of us are familiar with the model which looks outwards and judges how others are doing. But in reality, it only does half the job, the less important half. The super-deluxe, all singing, all dancing model, the one which will be the difference that makes the difference, is the bullshit meter which acts as the mirror to the inner essence of who you are as an authentic leader, and whether you operate out of integrity. It doesn't act as judge and jury. It simply rings when you're out of alignment with the best version of yourself, when you step out of integrity and your genuine power. It's up to you whether you ignore the bell or choose a different way of being. We humans have made bullshitting ourselves an art form. I'm sure you've indulged in it, and I know I have. As a teacher, I recognise that children are past masters at being economical with the truth. It's not my fault. The dog ate my homework. I wonder, what was your favourite version? Because the chances are, in my 30 years as a head teacher, I've heard every excuse in the book. Sadly, rather than grow out of the habit of being economical with the truth so we don't look bad, many would reach Olympic gold medal status in bullshitting themselves and others. Covering up a mistake rather than owning up is common, particularly when people work within a blame culture. So, ask yourself, how honest are you with yourself? How honest and authentic are you with your partner or your team? There is, of course, one exception. If your wife or your girlfriend asks, "Does my bum look big in this?" you need to think very, very carefully before you answer. Many people practice bullshitting on a daily basis and as a result stay stuck in the loop of self-deceit and denial. At an individual level, it's bad enough. But when leaders are caught in this trap, the results are disastrous, not only for their team, but for the success and profitability of their business. We see evidence every day of leaders subscribing to the bullshit model of leadership. You'll be familiar with those who expect others to do what they say, but they don't do it themselves. Or those who talk about respect and trust and fairness, but only see things from their point of view and who are determined to be right. Is your bullshit meter ringing right now? Be honest, as it's only when you are in integrity with yourself that you can be truly authentic, which is where the real treasure lies. Bull comes in many forms, and I intend sharing with you just a few today. As you listen, think about how you show up. Are any of these forms true for you too? I'd like to share the journey of one of my past clients. 3 siblings had inherited a failing hotel. Set on a vast site overlooking the Thames, it had the best views in the district. The hotel itself was beautiful, but very shabby and unloved. It was close to the M25 and to the Dartford Tunnel, and it should have been thriving. However, the reality was that it was £8 million in debt. Bedroom occupancy was very low, particularly midweek, as most of their clientele were commercial reps who stayed midweek. The first challenge was to get the directors singing from the same hymn sheet. In those early discussions, my bullshit meter was running at optimum level. Each director had a very insular view of the contribution they and their siblings were making, and how the hotel could become a successful going concern. 3 very different stories. They felt put upon and resentful, believing that they were working considerably harder than their siblings. Perhaps this is an example. This exemplifies why it's so difficult to identify and own our own bullshit. How we need someone else to hold up the mirror and ask those questions that stop you in your tracks and go, oh, or ah. Enabling each to have their say and getting them to listen to one another was in itself a significant challenge. Asking them to see themselves in the mirror, to be honest, and to just identify and quantify the level of their own engagement and, more importantly, the impact it was having on themselves, the others, and the hotel was even more critical. They needed to move from the poor me, this is so unfair, to let's find a way of working together to create and maintain success. This was a vital step in the journey towards turning the fortunes of the hotel around. There was much to do if they were to achieve the success that they longed for, and a significantly new way of approaching things just had to be found. Something very new to them, but one of the underpinning principles of creating success was engaging their staff meaningfully, so they could contribute to both identifying and delivering solutions. Their approach was about to experience a complete transformation. There wasn't a pumpkin, a sparkly dress, a wand, or a puff of green smoke in sight. I want you to picture the scene. We'd pushed together several dining room tables, and along the top was a long roll of white wallpaper. The directors and the department heads all were armed with Post-its and with felt-tip pens. Over the next 4 hours, we established the underpinning principles of the From Bullshit to Profitability and Success formula, which was the starting point of a 3-year-long recovery program for the hotel. It was vital to establish just how each individual would need to show up on a daily basis if success was to be achieved and maintained. It was critical to ensure that the whole team developed high levels of emotional intelligence. Thus started their journey to success. The change? Dramatic. From a dead atmosphere and a dreary environment to one full of energy and excitement. The hotel was transformed from one which was empty most of the time to one which achieved 87% bedroom occupancy consistently. They developed a loyal group of clientele. It became a buzzy place for locals to visit for coffee, lunch, afternoon tea, dinner, and special events. The conference suites, which had lain empty, were fully booked, as were the function rooms in the hotel. The whole hotel was refurbished out of the increased revenue and looked shiny and well-loved. The customers were happy, staff morale was good, and they were motivated and well-trained. The directors and staff had a real sense of pride, and the hotel thrived. A profit scheme was set up, and things were very different. So, why is it so important for leaders to recognize and deal with their own bullshit? Those who lack integrity, who can't manage their own emotional state, and who fail to walk the talk, damage, often beyond repair, the trust and respect of those they lead. These leaders create high levels of stress, anxiety, and depression for their workers. It's not only bad for all concerned, but it's very, very bad for business. Absenteeism due to stress costs the UK economy over £70 billion in 2019, and presenteeism, that's being in work but underperforming because of stress, is thought to have cost twice that much. The impact on individuals and their families is quite profound, but the impact on the business through lack of continuity, poor customer satisfaction, reduced productivity and profitability is just huge. I'm sure there's many of you who are listening to this thinking, well, that's not me. And yet, I bet that each and every one of you sitting and listening at this time is guilty in one way or another of your own personal bullshit and ignoring your bullshit meter. Being honest with ourselves and others leaves us feeling vulnerable. It's one of the reasons why we work so hard at kidding ourselves and covering things up. I'm not immune to the grand old art of bullshitting, as you'll discover over the next few minutes. I have an extremely good track record of helping businesses become hugely more profitable. I watch as the businesses I work with consistently for a year or more go from strength to strength as I help the leaders and their staff to engage in very different ways. The fact is that any business that I've worked with for over a year has enjoyed far better relationships, increased well-being, greater productivity, and a vastly improved bottom line. So where's the bullshit in that, you might ask? The reality is, there is none. When I work with others, I come from a place of complete integrity. My focus is entirely on the needs of my client and helping them recognize how they can best help themselves. And I'm very good at it. I'm absolutely thrilled when the company's doing so well that the leaders choose to share their financial success with their staff. When they show me their fabulous new car and talk to me about their wonderful holidays. I'm so happy to hear the staff saying that they now love coming to work because their contribution is truly valued. And yet, there is a sense of frustration. Why was it that I could help them so effortlessly and yet find it so difficult to create the same high levels of profitability in my own business? I was asked the question, how honest am I with clients about the success of my own business? Are the glossy websites, the hype about being a multiple #1 international best-selling author and speaker, simply bullshit or good marketing? Is there in fact a difference? It made me think deeply about the question and led to a rewrite of this talk. My business is called Genuinely You Limited, and having read the first draft of my talk, I recognized that I would not be being genuine if I didn't share with you how being great at what you do is in and of itself no guarantee that your business will be highly profitable. Why do I find it so much easier to see what's required to fix the problem, find a way to get the moving parts to work together, and to help there to be a harmonious outcome when I'm working with others than I do when I'm talking about myself? Why was it that despite working with so many gurus, spending a fortune, lots of energy and time on sales and marketing, that my own business model had not yet achieved the altitude of success that I so easily created with others? I realized that I was ignoring my own bullshit meter. And it was simply too uncomfortable. It was time to face the reality, time to be really honest with myself in a way that I hadn't been before because it was simply too uncomfortable. The results have been great. I've irrefutable evidence from my own situation and that of my clients that having and using an efficient bullshit meter to inform your beliefs and your choices is the key to creating and expanding success in your business and in your personal life. I've already shared one example of how using my super-duper all-singing, all-dancing bullshit meter has helped others see themselves in the mirror, to shift their way of being and to create their own internal bullshit meter. And I'd like to share another. I was approached by the owner of a dental lab. His business was already successful, but he was approaching burnout. He and his staff worked extremely long hours. The staff worked on specific tasks and were paid on piece rate. He felt overworked and overwhelmed because, as he said, well, I have to do all the thinking myself. I'm constantly being interrupted, so I have to take my work home. There's no point in delegating. It's simply quicker and easier to do it myself. That much was true. But here's the thing. He believed that the problem was with his staff. My bullshit meter began to ring very loudly. For things to change, there had to be a shift from his asking, well, why can't the staff perform better, to what am I doing, which is resulting in them behaving in that way. Initially, he didn't believe that such an approach would work. He didn't think it was going to make any difference. And I have to say, the staff were pretty skeptical too. Limiting beliefs are dangerous, as they act as a straitjacket and they create self-fulfilling prophecies for both the individuals concerned and the business as a whole. It was vital that these were challenged. He began to realize that if he wanted their engagement, he had to involve them in a very different way. Being open to the possibility and the opportunities and ready to take action is what separates those who achieve high levels of sustained success from those who don't. How often do you avoid doing things in case you fail? Or do you give up when things get tough? So, how did things change for my client as he found his bullshit meter and he began to use it effectively? One of his complaints was that his staff didn't appear to care about anything but their pay packet. As he and his staff learned and embodied the principles of the from bullshit to success and profitability formula, they witnessed a transformation in themselves and the success of the business. They've moved from a group of individuals working piece rate to a highly effective, cohesive and self-organizing team. Relationships have strengthened, staff engagement, motivation and morale have improved greatly, so everyone's far happier. Productivity's gone up and the quality of their product is even better. Together they've created a learning culture. Thursdays are development days, and everyone's involved in teaching and learning, and staff are taking the time in their own time to research new techniques and new technology so that they can share it. Profits hugely increased, so the boss implemented a profit share, which has increased the staff's sense of ownership, and the staff love it. Not only have they reduced their working day significantly, but they happily finish early on a Friday and they trot off to the pub, spending some of their profit share. The boss has more time, he's more relaxed and is able to work strategically on his business, which continues to go from strength to strength. Finally, I'd like to ask you 3 questions. And I ask that you're really honest with yourself. How often do you bullshit yourself? Are you playing safe or small? Are you ready to invest in and use the all-singing, all-dancing bullshit meter to face your fears and to become the best version of yourself? Or will you simply continue to bullshit?